Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.0. Prepare for launch.
OTC is go.
Packetbus is go.
PTC is go.
FPS is go.
Houston flight is go.
Molotov.
STM is go.
Safety-com is go.
STU is go.
LRD is go.
SRO is go. CDR is go.
Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston.
Consequences so severe, so pull your trigger quickly, dear. Our patriots are acting up, let's punish them with fear.
Hey, it's Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, version 4.0. And before I jump into the version 4.0, I do have some announcements. I forgot to announce last Wednesday that there was not going to be a show last Friday. Apologies, but I'll go ahead and announce now, just in case I forget, that there will be no Friday show, and there might also not be an Ask Me Anything this week. I might actually record that tomorrow, but Wednesday is April 20th. And there's a big cannabis rally at the New Hampshire State House on Wednesday that I will be attending as a speaker. And then on Friday, I will be traveling to the airport, as I've been doing most Fridays since late February, and will be doing several more Fridays until Memorial Day. So possibly not a show this Friday. If I do an Ask Me Anything this week, it will be either tomorrow. I might possibly record it on Thursday. No, I can't record it on Thursday because I have other arrangement or other things scheduled on Thursday. So if I do an Ask Me Anything this week, it will be tomorrow that I record, but I'll wait until Wednesday to put it up, just because, I like being on the schedule. With that said, let me just briefly recap what happened this past weekend. So on Friday, there was the East Coast Cannabis Club or Coalition that had what they call a cipher, which is some kind of torch-like thing that they actually have it looking like a big, giant joint. And they're doing a relay down the East Coast to where it started in Maine. It came through Concord. There was a handoff in Concord, and then it went down. There was a handoff at the New Hampshire-Massachusetts state line, and it's going all the way down to Miami. And I'll post a link in the show notes where you can see the entire schedule, just in case you might happen to be in the path of this thing. And initially when I heard about it, I was thinking that they were going to have people run, like the Olympic torch. They have people run the thing. But no, they're having people drive, and then they're having gatherings in the different handoff locations. So still, it's really interesting, and they had a nice little gathering. There wasn't really any speechification at the handoff in Concord, but I was there nonetheless. And from there, I headed down to the airport. So even had I not gone to the cipher handoff thing in Concord on Friday, I would not have been able to do a show just because of times that I needed to leave to get to the airport. But again, just that heads up, there will be no show on Friday. If I do an Ask Me Anything, I'll record that tomorrow, which I'm going to do my best to try to get that recorded. So if you have questions, send those over, ama@fppradio.com. So this past weekend, after the Cannabis Coalition Cipher handoff thing in Concord, flew down to Louisiana, arrived in New Orleans just after midnight, and then had someone give me a ride to Baton Rouge, and then I got some sleep, woke up, recorded a newscast, recorded another newscast. Yes, I cheated, and recorded both Saturday's and Sunday's newscast Saturday morning. And I did that just because I wasn't sure if I would be able to get one recorded for Sunday. And I was right. My schedule did not allow that to happen just because of the travel between where I landed and where the convention was. It was about an hour and a half each way, so that totally just threw things off. And so then during the convention on Saturday, they had a candidates forum for the presidential candidates that were at the convention Saturday night. It was me, Thomas Clemens, Rhett Smith, and Jack Robinson. And that forum lasted for, I think, almost 2 hours. They then had a straw poll after the forum, and I won handily. It was the first straw poll, other than the Pennsylvania straw poll, that Gary Johnson did not win. And I say other than the Pennsylvania straw poll because depending on which report you read, either I won or Gary, and no one really knows for certain because it wasn't a tabulated straw poll. It was a voice vote straw poll, and no winner was announced by the host or moderator. So, it was sort of left up to interpretation, and some people are saying I won, some people are saying that Gary won. I'm also not including the primary in Missouri because technically primaries are not straw polls, and straw polls are not primaries. But the primary in Missouri that happened back on March 15th was won by Uncommitted, which was basically the version of none of the above. Gary was not on the ballot, nor was John McAfee, nor was I in Missouri. So, huge victory for the campaign in Louisiana, where I won 57% of the vote. I'll post the results in the show notes, and I'm also putting out a press release later today. Again, today, Monday, April 18th, I will get a press release sent out on that. Hopefully get a little bit more attention for the campaign, get some more donors to the campaign because there's a lot of travel coming up, and I could really use the extra help, especially with some of the unpaid-for travel expenses, such as hiring taxis or Uber, taking public transit, etc. So, if you want to help the campaign, DarrylWPerry.com/donate. And yes, I'm being totally transparent with campaign funds. You can see that at the website under campaign expenses. When we come back, version 4.0. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
So before I jump into version 4.0, I want to make sure that I tell you about a way that you can keep your money in the free economy. Assuming that you use free market money, you can go over to spendabit.fppradio.com and check out Spendabit, because Spendabit is a search engine for things that you will pay or that you can buy with Bitcoin. Spendabit aggregates millions of products from thousands of merchants, including free press publications, and it's all right there in a search engine, very easy to use. Spendabit.fppradio.com. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. And if you're a Bitcoin accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. spendabit.fppradio.com. So launching into version 4.0. Now, one thing that you may have noticed over the last several months is the way I'll phrase certain things, to where I try to be more positive. I'm not necessarily going to say I put the positive spin on things, but I try to stay away from the don't and tell you the do. So do this instead of don't do this. Try this instead of try not to, fill in the blank. And part of that is because once you start changing the way you think, you start changing the way you act, and when you change the way you act, you change other things as well. But there's stuff that goes on in the brain about when you think negative thoughts. And certainly there are times when bad things happen, and it's difficult not to have a negative thought. And we talked a good bit about that on Wednesday. But I had something come across my email. I think yesterday is when it actually came into the email box, but because of travel, I didn't see it until today. There's an article titled, "The Crazy Way Complaining Alters Your Brain." And there's a fairly lengthy intro here, but let me jump into part of the intro before getting into basically what I would consider to be the meat of the article. The author here says, all too often we tend to get caught up in the reasoning that venting is healthy and cathartic. While yes, it can be done, doing it compulsively can also sabotage our brains and our health. Complaining is a manifestation of hopelessness and frustration, an offshoot of anger, which has been shown to cause a greater risk of heart disease, hypertension, and stroke. Negative emotions boil down to anxiety and stress, and I'll talk about stress a little bit here as well. So negative emotions boil down to anxiety and stress, which can impair the immune system for hours at a time, upset hormonal imbalance, and make us susceptible to deadly conditions. And complaining can be contagious, because humans naturally feel empathy. When we're mid-rant, the same neurological activity noted above may occur in the brains of people around us. So I guess kind of empathy, but a negative empathy. So if you're complaining, other people are more likely to then wind up wanting to complain. And then, all of this negativity that, you're complaining about winds up just snowballing. And there can then be the other results, the health-related, not just the mental anguish results. Again, complaining is a manifestation of helplessness, which is an offshoot of anger, which has been shown to cause greater heart risk, hypertension, and stroke. But we don't have to be robots with no emotions. Feel your feelings, which a lot of times you can actually do without saying a word, but then let them go, and don't end up ruling your brain. Don't let them rule your brain. Flipping the switch to cut down on complaining just takes some practice. Try this experiment, they write. Whenever you feel a negative comment on the tip of your tongue, stop and ask yourself these 3 questions before you react. Here are the 3 questions and the reason you should ask each one. Will speaking up solve the issue? If the answer to the question is yes, say if a restaurant really messed up your order and you want it fixed, then by all means take positive action and speak up. Nicely, if possible, but this is all about taking a solution-oriented approach to the little injustices we experience in day-to-day life. We'll never be able to change the weather, traffic, Wi-Fi speed, and in many cases, other people's opinions and behavior, so we can save a lot of time and grief by just letting that stuff go. What you can control, your own reactions to all of those things. So if you get frustrated and speaking will actually change something, then by all means, speak. So you're at a restaurant and they mess up your order, yeah, it's going to be frustrating, but saying something to the waitress politely can wind up resolving it. If you start yelling at the waitress, then you know what? They might wind up, quote unquote, fixing your order, but they might spit in it as well while they send it out the way you wanted it. So being polite goes a long way, and yes, there are times when speaking up can solve the problem. The second question, does the other person need to know? If you'd rather address your restaurant grievances to the person next to you who can't do a thing, then consider zipping your lips. Let's just consider it. Since we all know that words can have an influence on other people's brain chemistry, that's a good reason to be more mindful of what we say and how it affects others. Sure, some bonds are built on the camaraderie of complaining, but that doesn't have to be the basis of all relationships. Consider communicating positivity more often than negativity, and it just may change the dynamic between you and others in a good way. So going back to the restaurant thing, they mess up the order, say something to the waitress or the waiter, and they might be able to get it fixed. Telling the person next to you, yeah, it's not going to fix anything. It might make you feel better of, can you believe what these idiots did? And I'm guilty of this as well. I posted something on Facebook yesterday to where I really, should not have done it. I didn't need to do it, but it made me feel better to do it, and I'll explain what it was that I was complaining about when we come back here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com, and now available on Google Play if you have that.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
Hi, this is Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
So what was I complaining about? And now I'm sort of complaining about the fact that I was complaining, and that's just not doing anybody any good, but I sit here and I talk. That's what I do. So let me sort of back up here. So the article here is The Crazy Way That Complaining Alters Your Brain. And here's 3 questions that they say you should ask yourself before you react negatively to a situation. Will speaking up solve the issue? Does the other person need to know? So you're complaining here in this scenario, you're complaining to someone who is not able to fix the problem. So the situation that I had yesterday, I was flying back from Louisiana, and I had a fairly tight connection, or what was scheduled to be a fairly tight connection in O'Hare. Flying from New Orleans to Chicago, and then connection from Chicago to Boston. So I'm looking, and I was like, not sure if I'm going to be able to make this because of the scheduled arrival time. So I asked the gate agent very nicely, hey, excuse me, I've got a fairly tight connection in Chicago. Would it be possible to move me a little closer to the front of the plane from seat 32 to something a little closer to the front? And she looks at her screen and she says, I can move you to the exit row for $44. And I was like, so you're going to charge me to move seats? She said, it would be $44 to move you to the exit row. That's the only thing closer that we have. And I said, okay, I'll keep my money and my seat. Thank you. And so then I posted on Facebook, wow, I've never been told that it would, wind up costing money to change a seat before. And I've done this numerous times on airlines other than the one that I was on yesterday. And I actually posted which airline it was on Facebook. And if you're my Facebook friend, you can find the post if you are so inclined. But I also sent an email to this company asking if it was their standard procedure to charge people to change seats. Because, again, I've never had that question or had the question of, can I get a different seat, answered with, yes, if you give us money. And I used to work for an airline, and we never charged people to change a seat. Unless they said, can I get an upgrade to first class? Okay, yeah, first class costs extra. Here's how much it costs to upgrade to first class. I was not asking to upgrade to first class. I was not asking for one of their quote-unquote more room seats. I was just saying, hey, can you move me a little closer? That way it helps me make my connection. Because if you miss a connection, then it causes more work for them. So, it's actually, beneficial for them to help their customers wind up make connections, because otherwise you're causing a gate agent in another city some work, and then possibly, delays and everything else of, oh, they missed their connection, so now we've got to put them on another flight and this, and it's a big problem when people start missing connections. So, gate agents generally want to be very helpful. But so I posted on Facebook and got some responses of, yeah, that airline is horrible. I would never fly them. Before they merged with this other airline, I used to fly with the other airline, and I loved the other airline, but now their customer service is absolutely horrible. So I was complaining to people that could not do anything about it, but I also sent the email to the airline, and, had I stood there and complained to the gate agent, she wouldn't have changed her mind, because, nope, my rules say, X, and that's what I'm telling you. So, did I complain? Yes. And now I'm complaining about the fact that I was complaining, which just goes absolutely against the thing that I'm saying of don't complain, because complaining isn't good for your health. So I'm really, talking about this just as much for my own benefit as for yours. The final question, after will speaking up solve the issue? Does the person you're speaking to need to know / can they help? Is there something positive to be said instead? And I'll go ahead and give the answer. Yes, I wound up making my connection anyway, because we landed early in Chicago, and then I didn't have that far to go, just from Concourse C to Concourse B, and it was a lot closer than I expected, so I made my connection, and I actually had a smoothie from Smoothie King right across from the gate. So yeah, everything wound up working out, which I think is why I feel bad about having complained in the first place. So the article here says, is there something positive to be said instead? And they then put, most of the time the answer to this last question is yes. Often all it takes to get out of a black hole of displeasure is to consciously reframe your thinking. If you can't help the words from coming out of your mouth or flowing through your fingers on the keyboard to social media or email, etc., then at least think about how you can follow it up on a positive note. Not saying you need to be fake or that you need to fake the funk, but when you start to feel all worked up about the presidential election, remember that you get to vote in it. How cool is that? And even as a candidate, I'm not that excited about voting in the upcoming presidential election, just because the candidates that are most likely to win are not people that I would want to ever have ruling me. I don't want anyone ruling me, and I don't think that you need anyone ruling you either, which is why I'm on this mission to promote the idea of non-aggression, and hey, people are smart enough to control themselves. Let's get rid of this whole rulership altogether. So, I mentioned earlier in the last segment about stress, and I will tell you why stress is bad and how you can change it here in the closing moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, so we're in the closing moments. I've got an article, What Work Stress Does to Your Mind and Body and How to Deal with It. And, well, I'm going to tell you the how to deal with it. You can read the what it does to you part at your leisure. I'll put the link in the show notes. So, how do you deal with stress? Or how should you deal with stress? Start with food. Eating your feelings is totally a thing, especially at work. Women are 46% more likely to grab a snack when they're stressed. The author of the article is quoting a researcher that they mentioned earlier, or a doctor, rather. Most people do need to stay away from fake foods, refined sugars, cookies, cakes, breads, pastas, basically anything that's in a bag that you can pop open. Sugar and refined grains like white flour are the two biggest things that make people sick and contribute to stress. So put down the potato chips and pick up a few of these anxiety-busting foods instead. A handful of almonds gives you a dose of zinc, healthy fats, and iron. Zinc deficiency has been linked to depression and anxiety. Iron fends off mental fatigue, helping you feel in control and alert, preparing you to take on your day. Get zen with tryptophan, the amino acid that increases serotonin production. Serotonin plays a significant role in emotional moods, pain control, and inflammation, so it's wise to get as much flowing as you can in your work environment, or rather, if your work environment gives you a headache. Find tryptophan in seaweed and nori snacks, and you may have heard about tryptophan. It's the stuff that people claim gives you that turkey gobble day nap feeling. Yet, no, not true at all. What gives you that feeling on Turkey Gobble Day is the fact that you overate, and then your body wants to go hibernate. Has nothing to do with tryptophan at all. Avocado toast isn't just trendy. They say the high magnesium count in everything, or rather in everybody's favorite green fruit, could actually help calm and center you before an important meeting or presentation. Chronic stress leads to increased cortisol creation, which results in depleted magnesium levels. Getting your magnesium not only restores your body, but also prevents the entrance of stress hormones into the brain. Get good with bacteria. The gut has been called the second brain, and there's plenty of studies that link gut health to mental well-being. The doctor previously mentioned often recommends a customized probiotic to patients who struggle with anxiety and stress. And there's more to this article. You can read it. It'll be in the show notes. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copyheart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas, which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.